Let's have a weird conversation today. So I'm flipping through Netflix and I'm going through all these different films and I'm trying to figure out what I want to talk about on my next coffee with. Is there a film? Is there a topic that I want to go through? Whatever I'm kind of thinking of. Well, one of the films I was looking at was Ghost Story and I was like, I'm not really in the mood for a drama tonight. I'm just not. So maybe skip that one. So I keep flipping through and I'm like, I want to watch a comedy. What comedy do I watch? So I'm going through all these, and there's some that I remember from the 2000s, the 90s. Naked Gun's on there. Austin Powers is on there. There's a bunch of different Mike Myers films on there. So I'm kind of like, not quite. I watched Austin Powers recently, and then I came across another one. I came across Space Jam. I told myself I didn't want to do another sports movie because I just got done doing Draft Day. Well, I kind of came up with it, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll find something interesting to talk to there. If I don't like what I see, I'll just do something else. So I decided to watch Space Jam. And as I'm watching this film, I come across a question in my head. Is Space Jam art?
In the deepest reaches of space, a sinister force prepares an invasion. And all that stands between the world and disaster
you were expecting maybe the Easter Bunny?
is a rabbit, a duck, a doll, and a bull. Not that bull.
Smile, okay?
This bull.
What kind of camera is that?
Well, let's look at the definition. If you give it a goo, you'll come across the definition of the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, typically in a visual form such as painting or sculpture, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. There's also another thing I want to bring into this conversation before we even get started on it. I had a professor in college, my freshman or sophomore year. I'm taking Introduction to Dramatic Arts, and they bring up the point that art also lasts the test of time. And I'm going to bring that into this conversation when we talk about Space Jam. Let's talk about the beginning. The premise of this movie, Space Jam, or the idea of it is that Michael Jordan has to help the Looney Tunes in order to keep them from being kidnapped and enslaved on an alien planet. It's goofy. It's loony. Whatever you want to call it. But that's the idea of the film. So what's working off that for us? Well, let's think about this. There are two things in that movie that I think every kid who grew up in the 80s, 90s are going to kind of latch on to. At my house, I grew up big time into basketball. My grandfather played basketball in college. He played for the Army European team. It's a big deal in my home. So, like, Michael Jordan was a household name for me, definitely for sure. I watched the NBA Finals all the time as a kid. I could name almost a player on every team. I loved Jordan. Jordan was my dude. And why wouldn't he be? Jordan was the guy when we were growing up. I mean, there's a reason right now ESPN is doing a whole docuseries on Michael Jordan and the 90s Bulls team with Rodman and Pippen. By the way, shout out to Pippen, a fellow Arkansan. So Jordan is one of those people that we're just always going to be stuck in our head. Today it's probably LeBron James or Tom Brady that we'd probably be talking about the most. Fingers crossed it's Luka next. The other side of this whole thing is that growing up in the 90s, if you had cable, Cartoon Network didn't really have a ton of original programming. In fact, a lot of it was the rerun stuff. It was Flintstones, Tom and Jerry, and of course, Looney Tunes. I would make the argument because of Cartoon Network and cable in the 90s, I would say that the Looney Tunes are as big, if not a bigger influence on my childhood or a bigger piece of my childhood than, say, my dad. And my dad, you know, there's a 20-year gap between when he was growing up and when I was growing up. And I would say the Looney Tunes came back in surges then. So the Looney Tunes to 90s kids are a big deal. So there's a reason we wanted to see this film as kids growing up. So it's already having some kind of an impact on us. If you go back to the definition, it says producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. Let's think about that. Is Space Jam a beautiful film? Probably not. I mean, it's beautiful when Michael Jordan goes up and makes a dunk. Let's not confuse what I'm saying here. Is it beautiful if you compare it to something like The Revenant? No. But if you go to the other side of that or there, it says, or emotional power. Does Space Jam have an emotional power over us? Well, number one, it's a comedy. So yeah, we're getting chuckles out of it. We're finding humor in there. Humor's another just emotion. It's a level that we have as humans. So it's grabbing that portion of us, and we're laughing. We're enjoying ourselves from the Looney Tune comedic effect. And then we're also having another piece of just this human that we all recall in Michael Jordan. I don't think it's a stretch to say when you make a biopic, and I'm not calling Space Jam a biopic, let me be clear here, but I don't think it's a stretch to say when you have a biopic with something with, say, Johnny Cash. If you watch Walk the Line, we're interested in the life story of Johnny Cash because Johnny Cash is important to people. I think Michael Jordan is important to people too. He's especially important to like kids like me when I was growing up. So like Michael Jordan was a big deal, and that's got an emotional attachment, and that's an emotional attachment that's only continued to grow throughout the years. So I think the Jordan effect in combination of the humor is putting together, and it's sparking some level of emotional power. You can disagree with me on that, and that's fine, but I still have another point to make here. If you go over the last 30 years, name a movie that you kind of think about just on a regular basis, that you saw maybe growing up. Think about a movie even from your childhood that you still watch today. An example of this for me would probably be something like Men in Black. Space Jam's another one of those movies to me. Space Jam has a connection to my childhood because of what it represented to me. If you still want to argue the fact that it's just childhood nostalgia is why I want to watch this, I want to bring up the fact that there's a lot of things from my childhood I don't watch anymore, and I'm sure you're the same. So those things I don't personally think belong in the same conversation. They don't play in the same conversation because I'm sitting here 24 years later making a 5-10 minute clip talking about is there art value in Space Jam. Think about that. It matches the criteria for it stands the test of time. Is it the greatest thing that's ever been made? No, it's not Citizen Kane. Are there flaws in the narrative? 100%. There's totally flaws. I can point out to a couple just off the top of my head. Michael Jordan has no idea how the basketball thing works or how the alien got the talent from the NBA players, but he still figures out that you have to put the basketball in front of them and they have to touch it in order to give the talent back to the NBA players. Where's that? This movie doesn't make groundbreaking achievements in animation. It's not Who Framed Roger Rabbit. You don't have shadow effect coming off of the cartoon character in the real world or anything like that. But it's still fun. So yeah, I kind of dig it. And I'll go as far to say, maybe it's art. Hey, look, that's just my opinion. And I'm sure you've got an opinion on your own. So, like, feel free to drop it into the comments below if you're interested in just kind of expanding the conversation. I'll try to reply. Also, something else that I'm curious, are a lot of you watching the Jordan documentary right now? So far, it's pretty cool. I definitely like the Scottie Pippen episode. Shout out to Arkansas. I didn't go to UCA, though. But shout out to Arkansas. Gotta love Scottie. His kid's plays for Vanderbilt, I think. I think that's pretty cool. It's kid, nephew, something. I don't remember. I'm gonna have to look it up. But he's got an attachment to Vanderbilt right now. Anyway, I'll see you next time, and we'll have another conversation.